Welcome to This Explainer. Okay, let's jump right in because today we are exploring a truly captivating story. We're looking at The Attic, which is a brilliant piece of prose by the legendary Indian writer and filmmaker Satyajit Ray. Now, at first glance, it kind of seems like a completely simple, mundane road trip, just driving back after visiting a new factory site. But as we're about to find out, it suddenly transforms into this incredibly tense, emotional journey straight into a guilty past. So let's see exactly what ghosts are hiding in this attic. If you could go back 29 years to fix a childhood mistake, would you? It sounds like a super simple yes, right? But what if digging up that past reveals parts of yourself you'd actually rather keep buried? This is the core emotional dilemma of our story today. Before we actually hit the road with our characters, keep this question in the back of your mind. How far would you go to make amends? And honestly, who are you really doing it for? Okay, part 1. Return to Brahmapur. So, our story opens on a sun-soaked winter afternoon, driving along National Highway 40. We meet Aditya and his friend, who's also his business partner, and our narrator for the story. They're just driving away from their new factory site in Deodarganj when they suddenly hit a fork in the road. And on a total whim, Aditya decides to make a spontaneous detour to a place he literally hasn't seen in decades, his birthplace, Brahmapur. Now, this physical journey maps perfectly onto an emotional one. They leave the present-day reality of the factory site, cruise down the highway, and take that fateful right fork. And that right turn, it's not just a change in direction. It's a doorway stepping straight back into childhood memories. Aditya actually hasn't set foot in this ancestral town since he passed his matriculation exams and moved to Kolkata. It has been exactly 29 years since Aditya left this 200-year-old estate. 29 years, almost 3 whole decades. Just think about how much a place changes in that amount of time. Even more importantly, think about how much a person changes. Aditya himself even mentions that, trying to revive old childhood memories might actually just end up being disappointing. But still, this undeniable nostalgic curiosity just pulls him forward. Which brings us to section 2, Nagin's tea cabin. So instead of going straight to his old home, Aditya decides to look for a slice of his old childhood routine first. They head out looking for this old tea shop belonging to a guy named Nagin Uncle. And amazingly, it's still there, right opposite the Lord Shiva temple. The owner, who's over 60 now, doesn't recognize Aditya at all, but he serves them exactly what they came for, a hot cup of tea and some naan-khatai biscuits. Honestly, it feels like this charming, rustic trip down memory lane. Well, until they notice the other patron in the room. Sitting quietly in the corner on a tin chair is this mysterious customer. His head is bent down like he's sleeping, he has poor eyesight, and he's a little hard of hearing. Nagin Uncle calls him Mr. Sanyal. He seems utterly harmless, right? Maybe just a destitute old man taking up space in a local shop? Our narrator even kind of starts wondering if the poor guy is a little crazy. But then, something incredibly strange happens. When Nagin Uncle loudly reminds Mr. Sanyal that it's time to go home, the man suddenly stands straight up. He stretches, raises his lean right arm, his eyes get super dilated, and he just powerfully recites a poem by Rabindranath Tagore called Panraksha, which literally translates to keeping of a promise. After finishing the poem, he doesn't say anything else. He just gives a namaste to nobody in particular and walks right out. Naturally, Aditya's friend asks Nagin Uncle, "Who on earth was that?" And Nagin Uncle reveals the absolutely heartbreaking reality of this man, Sasanka Sanyal. He lives what Nagin calls a cursed life. Get this, he had to sell all of his lands just to pay for his daughter's marriage. And then, tragedy struck even harder. He lost his wife and his only son just last year. Most people in town just think he's gone crazy. Yet, Nagin points out 2 absolutely crucial details. Sasanka hasn't forgotten a single incident from his past, and he always pays for his tea. The guy has retained this acute, fierce sense of self-respect. But why did a simple poem trigger such a sudden nervous change in Aditya? Because right after that recitation, Aditya's expression completely flips. His nerves are visibly overwrought. He suddenly has this urgent, almost desperate demand. He absolutely must visit his ruined ancestral house immediately. He turns to his friend and says it has become essential to do so. All right, section 3, a secret in the attic. So the two men drive over to the ruined ancestral house and run straight up to the second floor attic. It's a total mess of crumbled walls and twigs up there, but Aditya is on a frantic mission. First, he climbs on top of this old wooden packing case. Then he pushes his hand deep inside a ventilator in the wall, reaching so desperately that he actually knocks over a sparrow's nest. And finally, he retrieves a hidden, deeply buried item. The moment his hand grasps it, Aditya heaves this massive sigh of relief. He doesn't even tell his friend what the object actually is, just that he'll find out soon enough. He secures this antique item, and they take it directly to a local jeweler to be weighed and valued. Now, this intense relief tells us, the audience, that whatever this object is, it is the absolute key to the intense anxiety that gripped Aditya back at the tea shop. Moving on to Section 4, the confrontation. Armed with the item's financial value, Aditya tracks down Sasanka Sanyal's modest room at the home of Jogish Kabiraj. They step into this tiny space, where literally the only furniture is a simple charpoy bed. Aditya stands face to face with the man from the tea shop and asks if he remembers young Aditya Naran Chaudhary. Sasanka's response is immediate, and it is cutting. He says, "The spoiled child of affluent parents, was a fairly good student but could never beat me. He was extremely jealous of me, and he used to tell lies." Boom! This completely shatters the illusion that Sasanka is crazy. His memory is razor sharp. He perfectly remembers the rich, spoiled kid who couldn't stand being second best. Aditya admits it's true, and then awkwardly tries to hand Sasanka an envelope of money as a quote-unquote gift. Sasanka is confused, right? Like, why the sudden generosity? And then he reveals the core crime of their childhood. He says, "I got the prize." He could not bear it. He took it from me to show his father and never returned it to me. Said that there was a hole in his pocket and it had fallen through it. Wow, the dark secret is finally out. Young Aditya straight up stole Sasanka's recitation prize out of pure, bitter jealousy. What's truly fascinating here is the stark contrast between the actual crime and the apology. Aditya tells Sasanka the money, which is 150 rupees, is the price of the stolen medal. Sasanka is amazed, noting the original silver medal couldn't have been worth more than maybe 5 rupees back then. But Aditya explains that silver is now 30 times costlier, so he's actually adjusted the amount for inflation. He is literally trying to pay off his guilt with a cold, hard financial calculation. And that brings us to Section 5, Restoring the Past. Here is where we hit the emotional peak of the whole story, and we realize the absolute brilliance of Sasanka Sanyal. He looks right at Aditya and reveals the truth behind that weird encounter at the tea shop. He says, "I had recognized you at Najan Uncle's tea shop by that mole on your right cheek. I could see you had not recognized me, so I recited the same poem that I had recited on the prize-giving day on purpose so that you may remember." Amazing! He wasn't having some crazy episode at all. It was a highly calculated, deliberate message sent directly to his childhood bully. Aditya practically pleads with him to just take the 150 rupees, telling him his grievances are totally justified. But Sasanka stops him dead in his tracks. "Aditya, this smacks too much of charity. You see, despite being entirely destitute, despite having lost his family, his lands, everything, Sasanka Sanyal possesses an unbending pride. He flat out refuses the cash. He proves right there that true dignity and true forgiveness absolutely cannot be bought with an envelope of banknotes." Sasanka tells Aditya that money will just be spent anyway. What he truly wants, what would actually make him forget the ugly incident from their childhood, is getting the actual medal back. And so we get this deeply, deeply satisfying emotional payoff. Aditya reaches into his pocket and hands over the physical silver medal, the exact same medal he had pulled from the ventilator in the attic, where it had been hidden away in shame for 29 long years. The antique silver still clearly bears an engraving. Shriman Sasanka Sanyal, Special Prize for Recitation 1948. By handing it back, Aditya isn't just giving over a piece of silver. He is literally restoring Sasanka's stolen identity. He's giving back his lost victory, and he's validating a lifelong grievance. Aditya is finally, after all this time, keeping the promise of that poem, Panraksha. Which leaves us with this final, really important thought. When we try to buy forgiveness for our past, are we really just trying to comfort ourselves instead of actually healing the victim? Aditya tried to throw cash at the problem just to ease his own heavy conscience. But Sasanka demanded the truth, the memory, and the original prize. It's a really powerful reminder that true amends require way more than just a calculation. They require genuine restoration. Think about that the next time you find yourself looking back at your own past. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep questioning what you learn.